What up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Jazzy Talk. Tonight we have Mustardback from the Pacific Northwest FGC, the proprietor of a new community space out in Kent, Washington for fighting games called Neko Dojo. And so, what up, Mustardback? Thanks for coming on the show.
What's good, man? Thanks for having me.
So, how
Yeah,
do you pronounce
proprietor.
it? Neko Dojo? Nico
Neko
Dojo?
Dojo. Neko
Neko
Dojo. Yeah,
Dojo.
yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
guess the story behind that is, when I'm set, when I'm ready to like actually chase dreams, everybody wants to open up an arcade, right? And I was really inspired by Game Betty out in Japan. They're a rhythm arcade, and the guy just brings, the owner just like brings his cats in, and it's just like come play rhythm games with your cats. And I thought that was, just kind of a cool, interesting business model to, have cats, have a Japanese kind of game center space. So eventually, we'll hopefully move out of my garage and into a commercial space once I'm ready to lose all of my money on this uh, uh, business venture, I suppose. Uh, yeah, so it's and our cats were really they were kind of life changing, like pivotal for us. Me and my wife, we were just like dirty condo renting stoners or whatever, and then like we got a cat. And we were like, oh, this is this is going to change our life. Like we got to buy a house. We got to like fucking get our shit together because we have an animal depending on us. So it's kind of just a coalescing of two of the passions in my life is uh fighting games, Third Strike, and my cats, I suppose. So that's kind of the story behind that.
Yeah, definitely want to talk more about Neko Dojo later on in the show, but I want to talk more about you. Like, why fighting games? How did you get into this?
Sure. Well, I mean, so I can remember my very first match of Third Strike, right? So it was at an arcade called La Fun in Austin, and it was on Guadalupe, so it was like right across the street from UT Austin. It was when I was a student there, and one of my dorm mates took me. Like just went to the arcade, right? And he's like, "Oh, like they have Third Strike. We're gonna play this game. Like it was in my mom's pizza shop. Like fucking put your quarter in, whatever." So he picks Akuma. I pick Akuma because like I know how fighting game players are. I assume that he would, if I beat him, he would be like, I wanted it to be even, right? So I wanted to beat him with the same character, So it's like, I was a gamer, so I'd played a bunch of games before. I can't really even remember what I was super into at that time. Uh, but I'd been growing up playing video games or whatever. So I was like, I'll make it as even as possible. He can't bitch if I beat him. Even though I've never played this game before, and somehow, when I was thinking back in the story, I was like, somehow I must have played Street Fighter 2 at some point, because like I knew some of the motion inputs, I knew like a fireball, a DP or whatever. Uh, but I don't actually know what I'm doing. We're going down to the third, like last round. I'm in the corner. He's on top of me. I wake up, and we both have almost no health. And I wake up, and I'm just trying to mash out a DP. I'm trying to mash a DP for my fucking life, and I get backwards teleport, right? So like he fucking does something punishable, goes right through the backwards teleport. He lands, I punish him, and I was like, oh, this game's sick. Like I must be really good at this game. I can just fucking randomly beat him. Uh, so then from there, I was like that was just like 2 blocks up from Einstein's arcade. So I started going, who actually had a real Third Strike scene, and like players would show up, uh, most of the time, like regularly on the in the evening. But then on Friday nights is when everybody would gather in. And this is like the fall of 2005. So, I just played there for about 2 or 3 years, and it was like, everybody calls it the dark ages or whatever, but it was, go and my first 6 months to a year was really rough because it was like, I wasn't super social. It would, go spend my like $4 or $5 in quarters, and I'm playing Akuma. And if you're a new Akuma player, like you're just gonna get bodied by everybody. Uh, so it's like, go spend my quarters and leave. I didn't talk to anybody. I was just like trying to learn it all on my own, YouTube. Like it wasn't until, maybe 4 or 5 months later, like somebody in my dorm was like, hey, they put match videos on YouTube and you can like review matches. And I'm like, this is a fucking revelation, like I can watch people or whatever. And then, after I kept showing up, people would, I started making friends, started talking to people, and I realized like, oh, this is actually the real revelation, like how you actually learn and actually start talking to people and like, kind of get that like ego out of the way or whatever. Like everybody knows you suck. So, there's no reason to hold on to that for too long or whatever. Uh but that was I think an awesome scene to learn third strike in. You know, we had Mark Rogoyski, like he wrote the Brady games, the third strike section of the Brady games fucking strategy guide. Shin Chang is a, you know, a legacy player or whatever. He was playing there all the time. Like that was my nemesis. Like that was the guy who I wanted to beat. You know, like I think he's like, he goes by like FF14 on Street Fighter 6 now. He's like one of the highest LP SF6 players. Fubar Duck was there. Marcus was there, who was another like Jazzy, I think Jazzy 3, Jazzy 2, last chance qualifier. You know, so it was like a pretty strong scene to first start playing the game. And I just like fell in love with the game, fell in love with the community. You know, kind of dabbled around in some of the other stuff that was in the arcade. You know, like played a little bit of Guilty Gear while I was there, played a little bit of Tekken while I was there, and then you know, what I'd recognized was everybody who was really good at third strike had spent time in Japan, right? So I was like, well, this is what I have to do. I have to make a pilgrimage. I have to leave the country. I have to go find the hard players, you know, and like this is probably 2 or 3 years after, you know, I'd been playing there. I was like, uh, you know, so I hadn't even fucking touched the Sanmo, right? Uh I was like, well, I can make it out to Hawaii, and Hawaii is halfway towards Japan, so I'll start there. Like moved out to Hawaii, like lived on the Big Island for a little while, tried to get a third strike. You know, I like begged the family fun guy to like move the board over to the family fun that's on Hilo, and like the scene wasn't really there. It was just a Tekken scene, and they were mad that their Soul Calibur was gone for fucking third strike. So that didn't last for too long, and then you know, like it was at that point it was like kind of the economic downturn in 2009. So pretty much at this point, I'm in a lot of school debt. My only option is to join the military. So I joined the military to pay off school debt, and then within, you know, I was kind of in a nerd role. So just like a bunch of nerds, bunch of gamers or whatever. And I found tons of fighting game players there, and like, you know, kind of it was just like almost immediate, like finding, you know, I could just like knock on people's door, like on their barracks room and be like, hey, your roommate told me that he saw you playing Third Strike. That's my favorite game. And now we're fucking best friends. Like, and that's really what happened. So then, you know, that was, you know, 6 years of my life is like finding fighting game players. And, you know, I wound up going back out to Hawaii that time. So then I was on Oahu, and they had a bigger, better scene than Hilo did. You know, they had like Hawaiian Brian's, and I want to remember what was that place called? It was PC Gamers, like some LAN cafe, and you know Leviathan was out there, so I got to play him a couple times. Um, and then what happened? Came back to Washington. You know, my wife's family was all living in Washington, so then came back here in 2015, and you know I was like trying to find the third strike. I was like, "Yo, what's up with the third strike?" And like, you know, I knew that GameWorks had a fighting game meetup on Tuesdays. I would go and I would just sit in practice mode and just like wait for anybody to like realize what I'm doing over here. I'm like, you guys play fighting games, right? Like this is the best one. Like nobody's gonna fucking come over here and play this right now. So I was just like nobody played Third Strike for like the longest time. I was like, okay, well, that's weird. You know, I find a guy, you know, like my funniest story I think is you know, I find a guy who has some cabs here in Seattle, and I'm like I'm trying to chase him down. I'm like, you've got two candy cabs. I love this game. Like I find his ad on Twitter, like I fucking do internet sleuthing. I find his place of work, right? Like he's like a Subaru salesman, and I've exhausted all of the things that he's put out there, right? Like his Twitter and his Instagram or Facebook post or whatever. And I find out who he is, where he works, and I'm like calling up the Subaru dealership, like, hey man, like can you just is Greg there? Like they're like, who? And like, oh, you know, it's this he's a bald guy, I think. Yeah, the bald white dude. And then it's like, yeah, let me send you to his voicemail. So I leave a voicemail. I'm like, hey man, I love Third Strike. I know you got the Cavs. Fucking don't hold out on me. And then you know, no response, no reply. Cause obviously, you know, I leave him my number and everything. Like obviously it's creepy as shit. So he doesn't call me back. And then I'm talking to my wife and I'm like, babe, I gotta go to the Subaru dealership. I gotta tell this guy, hey man, like play it off, right? Like be like, I'm interested in an Outback, you know, like do you think it could fit a fucking candy cab? Like, what do you think? Like a Japanese candy cab, maybe? Like, would fit in the back of this Outback or whatever. My wife is like, you got to stop. Like, you just got to let it go. You're coming off like a fucking stalker. And I was like, all right, fine. Uh, but then, you know, there was just like randomly here, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago at this point, there was like a retro tournament. at GameWorks, and Third Strike was there, and I went and won that. And then got introduced to like what the retro scene was here. This guy Alex Largeman, he was hosting kind of a similar thing, just players at his house. Uh, and then I guess maybe about 2 years ago, kind of midway through the pandemic, they sold the house, moved off, started doing other stuff, and figured, well, it's my time. I guess I got to start. I can start doing something like that. Be the change in the world that you want to see or whatever. So I just started acquiring some machines, and then I mean, we're lucky to have Fight Kingdom, right? I mean, because that's the thing, the Seattle has world class players, and Seattle has a. I'm not trying to dog the FGC in Seattle at all. Like the FGC is great in Seattle if you play anything but Third Strike, right? Like, it's like we have some of the best Tekken players, some of the best Air Dasher players, world class Street Fighter, like modern Street Fighter players, but you know, uh, no, I think just people kind of like even some of the best like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 players, but Third Strike was missing a little bit, so I had to kind of fill the hole there, I guess, a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So
So that's
this
my
is
story, I guess.
yeah. So this is probably not a good sign as far as me getting old, but now I know why your name has always been so familiar, because I do remember you being associated with the Austin Third Strike scene, and you main Goki back then, right? That was your
Well,
or
I mean, there's no way you knew me back then as Goki, and probably not
well,
even
do you?
back
Well,
either.
I do know some really old school Austin players.
Sure,
And
well, yeah,
so
I guess that's
I
true.
must have
They
heard
might
your
have.
name, like, yeah, and so that's where I was like, yeah, but yeah, anyway, like,
They might have put the pieces together.
yeah,
I mean, I switched to Dudley
yeah,
like
yeah,
pretty like as soon as I was like, oh, I don't know. I had a roommate, and like I wound up like getting a job at Einstein's. Like I was going there
yeah,
every day before class or whatever. There was something weird about the grading system. Is like when I was going to school the first time, I was on a scholarship. It was completely free. It was totally given to me. I wasn't really taking it seriously, so I was just like kind of blowing it off, whatever. And there was something about getting good grades in Third Strike while getting bad grades in my classes for like not showing up, that like kind of made it all come out in a wash, like in my head a little bit. So it's like that's why I started like really really hard focusing on it. But then one of my coworkers there was also a deadly player, and the first time I saw him, like, well, somebody was knocked down, like, do three duckings, all super cool. And I was like, oh shit, like, no, this is the character. Like, this is what I want to play. Like, I want to play this juggly dude. And like, I barely even like it wasn't even about the 50-50 overhead, right? Like I was still so new that I didn't even recognize that that's what made him strong.
yeah,
But I was just like, no, no, corner juggles are cool. He has some game against Chun-Li, and like and this ducking thing is super sweet.
yeah.
So I just like kind of really latched onto that and changed it. But I mean, like my first tournament ever was actually like after Einstein's closed down, and it was before Arcade UFO opened up. Fubar Duck, and then this girl Christy, she bought all of the rhythm games, and then Ryan bought all of the arcade machines, like all the fighting game machines, and they moved them all to this PC like LAN cafe called Tech Republic, and that was like the first time that we had hosted a Third Strike tournament in Austin, and I remember my first opponent was a single elimination tournament, like first to two, uh, was like this fucking nicotine fiend, right? He was just like fucking chain smoking cigarettes outside, like up until the match was called, and then he comes in, and he's like I know he's from either Dallas or he's from Houston or something, right? He comes in as soon as like he throws the cigarette down, as soon as he's done with it, he like hops on the sticks, and he's playing Necro, and then he beats me. I'm like, all right, well that's cool. Like we don't have any Necro players. I have no idea what to do with this matchup. And then later, like whatever Jazzy finale 1 or 2, when Yuki wins, and the qualifier, or like the winner interview is, like, how are you feeling right now? And he's like, I just really need a cigarette. I was like, that's that dude. Like I fucking played that guy. I'm like, oh word, okay, okay, okay. No doubt. But then, like I didn't even know if I was like maybe I was on GGPO a little bit back then,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
as mustardback, but I really didn't even start playing tournaments until Shit. Honestly, like after that, I probably played in that tournament. I played in like Evo South 2006 or 7.
Mhm.
Got washed by two local like another Dudley player, Lee Cephas, and then somebody else. Uh, but then like I didn't even really start playing again on like Third Strike was always like I would not I wouldn't say waffle, but it was like I would drift in and out of like obsession,
Yeah.
right? Like I would kind of move on to something and then be like, well, Third Strike's there. Like I'm kind of feeling like playing some Third Strike now. And there was
Mhm.
something that my wife had told me. She was just like, I don't worry about you when you play Third Strike. And I was like, oh, word, is this like one of those, tell me that you're never gonna lose your man sort of things, like without telling me that you're never gonna lose your man. And she's like, no, 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 no. It's just like, it really makes you happy and I know that mentally you're in a happy space if you're doing it. And I was like, okay, like that actually like gave me a lot of motivation to like kind of keep on like pursuing it a little bit more.
Mhm.
But then it was like randomly some night in like 2018 2019 like Gutex hops on Fightcade and it's just like we're doing a tournament, like hop in here. And I was like, all right, like I'm on Fightcade, I want to play in a tournament, like that sounds like a good time. Because it was still Fightcade 1 at that point, right? So it's like uh there was no rank system.
Mhm.
I wasn't interacting with anybody because like the chat was still pretty. It was pretty. I don't know how much. I think it's gotten a little bit better. It was spicy. It was spicy. So I would just get in, do games, like play the first person that would challenge me or challenge whoever was like the lowest ping. Play a first to 10. You just do that. Repeated until I was done. And I was like, like I think I can beat most people. Whatever. So that's kind of like my foray, I suppose,
Mhm.
into like Third Strike tournament play was honestly like those random cross counter TV
Yeah.
uh, tournaments that he was having. Like just out of the blue, I think he was just bored one day and just
Mhm.
decided to start looking for hungry players or something.
Yeah. Uh, that you might have to come on a episode of the Mune Experience because, like, when I think about your history with Third Strike, you started in, I guess, one of the meccas when the FGC started with Third Strike,
I
Austin.
mean,
You
that's
know,
very, very nice.
we
That's
had
nice of you to
SoCal,
say.
we had Austin, we had obviously in Nebraska, New York. So yeah, it's interesting to think about your story. Going from Austin, then Hawaii. I have so many questions, and maybe yeah, you do have to come on another podcast because I have just a lot of questions about how all of you were able to create a scene out there. And I have never been to Hawaii personally. Would always, I think probably when I immigrated to this country, I probably had a layover here there,
Sure.
so I
Yeah. Yeah.
probably don't remember. But yeah, I'm really curious about like how you start a scene in Hawaii, let alone a Third Strike scene. I
I
just
mean,
know of
it's
like
not
some players,
far.
right? Like Dagger
Yeah. Yeah.
G and
Right.
Bathtub. They
Right.
came to
Right.
family a few times, I think.
Ricky was out there, I
Um,
think, for a little while, like
yeah,
Ricky Ortiz. Like, because when I was telling
yeah,
people in Austin, I was like, "Hey, I'm moving to Hawaii." They were like, "Oh, you need to look up Ricky Ortiz. That's probably the strongest
yeah,
player that's out there right
yeah,
now." And like, and then maybe you'll find Leviathan too. And
yeah.
it wasn't actually even until like 2 years later that I went back to Hawaii. I went to Hawaii once and went to Big Island,
Uh-huh.
came back for about a year and a half, like lived in California for a while, and then when I went back the second time was on Oahu, like the more populous
Yeah.
kind of island, I guess.
And then you end up in Seattle, or you come back to Seattle,
Right.
and then now you start Neko Dojo, and so just like looking back on like just the story you told us, like any like thoughts or anything like now that you've been able to just kind of like tell me the story, like.
I mean, what I like about it is, again, it's one of those like common languages that you automatically have with people before you even meet them, where
Hmm.
like them. It's like, oh, you love Third Strike, I love Third Strike, dog.
Hmm.
Let's fucking go. Like we already have this in common. Or even, I mean, like at this point, it's definitely extended to other fighting games, and like you learn the lingo and you kind of like are
Hmm.
exposed to enough games to where you can kind of find common ground. But uh I mean, even like I went to France, I guess 18 months ago or something, 2 years ago, something like that,
Hmm.
and went to Extra Life and like met Neobon there, right? So it was just like, I didn't, I was remiss in not practicing or learning any French before we went, but it was just kind of a spur of the moment, like,
Hmm.
hey, we're gonna go somewhere. Where are we gonna go? And I was like, well, I hear there's an arcade here. I hear there's Third Strike here. Like I remember Neobon playing in the finale. Like I know there's some strong Third Strike players here. So like I want to find him and play him.
Mhm.
Uh, and then did the same thing. Like finally made it out to Japan last October, and it was like kind of the same thing. Like I practiced a little bit of Japanese. I had a little bit of Japanese, but like not enough to like the conversational sort of half speak that you need to have and when you're talking informally, I suppose at a setting like an arcade. So it was totally out of my element, but it was still like I can sit down. I know the ritual. Like I know how to put the coin in. I know how to bow to people if they beat me. Like I know how to say thank you, or I know how to like say I'm sorry if I get really lucky, or how to say thank you if I also get really lucky. Like I know enough words to like insinuate that I kind of like know what's going on, but then also like just in the game, like it already kind of like functions as a common language, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's the learnings is that it kind of provides you this framework to like automatically have friends, I suppose, or like automatically like integrate
Or
yourself
start a
into.
conversation at the very least.
Yeah. No, no
Yeah.
doubt, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, so now you're in uh, Washington, Pacific Northwest. You open Neko Dojo. You already talked a little bit about your plans of
Sure. Yeah, I
maybe
might
moving
gotta
into a commercial space, and so
get ahead of myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's always good to have dreams. This is something I actually wanted to. This is a good segue to what I wanted to talk about next. On the last Jazzy Talk, I had a fairly new TO named Boardman who
Mm,
just recently ran his first Jazzy Ranking event at Esports Contender Irvine, and it was actually a pretty interesting event because it was the very first Jazzy Ranking
an
event
FB
run
Neo.
on FB Neo,
Yeah.
and Arliath and Duralath were there,
Right.
and uh, I think that might be back, but we were just talking, me and Arliath, about how that venue could be a really cool test case for getting competitive third strike into these spaces that you wouldn't normally expect them to be, right? Like these land
Like PC
cafes, these
cafes.
PC cafes,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so like, and during the podcast, Boardman lives in the LA area, and Boardman's a fairly new player. And Boardman was talking about how a lot of the venues, like that ran events like Wednesday Night Fights, they kind of closed down, and now like this dude is in like his 20s, early 20s, and it seems like it's like deja vu. You know what I mean? Like these stories sound eerily familiar.
And
When
nobody's
boy,
doing it. Somebody's got to do it. I got to
yeah,
step up, I guess.
funny, and it's kind of a weird sort of self-fulfilling prophecy when Spooky said those words, right? I think it was Spooky who said the words, right?
What was
If
that?
not me, then
Oh, sure.
if
Yeah.
not me, then who?
Then who? Yeah.
Yeah. But what do you think about, like, I mean, it probably is more simple than I think it is, but yeah, I have started to see a lot more, because like when it came to like arcade machines, right? You had like private collectors, like as far as who buys them. You have like private collectors, and then you have people who want to use them to run a store or something, right? An arcade.
Right.
But
Yeah.
now we have almost kind of like a weird sort of like hybrid of that, where people are buying these cabs for their homes, for their private use, but not just to like keep them in the corner, right, and take photos with them on and post them
I
on
mean,
Instagram.
they're
They're
they're not
using
fun
them,
that way,
yeah.
right? Like
They're
it's not
using
fun, like
them,
just to have
yeah,
it right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're using them the way you're using them, right? Which is you get the cabs so that you can create this space for players to come through. And so, what do you think about that? I guess you could call trend, or because it's almost like a weird hybrid of like you have the collector, and then you had the entrepreneur, right? The business owner that was gonna buy those cabs to try to run a store, and now you have kind of a hybrid like yourself.
I mean, I think it's like a conflux of a couple of different situations, right? You're getting cheaper machines. Maybe not so much now, but over the last like 10 or 15 years, you're getting like cheaper machines as they're and the pandemic. where the game centers in Japan are starting to close down. More people are importing, like there's more people in the import game in North America to actually bring them over. So they're kind of competing with each other. They still, I'm not gonna say collude, but like they kind of agree, set the price a little bit. You've had, but so access to like the Astro Cities, Blast Cities, the Japanese machines are a little bit higher, or I guess was a little bit higher for a little while. But then at the same time, on the American side of it, arcades are dead, right? Like, you can't make money just running a coin op business like that anymore. So you have barcades, and you have, things like Barcode and Akihabara coming up. There's tons of retro, like nostalgia bait type of bars, right? Where they just like open up and they're not making money off of any of the machines. They're making money because it's, hey, remember that you're now 40 or you're now 50 and you used to go to the arcades all the time in the 80s and 90s. Well, we can kind of replicate that sort of experience, and also sell you booze now, which is something that was probably different than some of the arcades back then, when it was mostly just like coin operators, kind of like running the entire scene or whatever. uh as far as, I don't have any complaints about anything, I would say, except, well, maybe I do, I don't know. uh I, yeah, you shouldn't just hoard, right? Like, you shouldn't just hold on to them and not share them. As a fighting game player, I think especially it might hit more for me, because it's like, if I have 20 candy cabs out here, but I'm just out here by myself, like, my cats aren't, they can't confirm a super for shit. And it's like, you have to, uh, not yet, not yet. We're working on it. We're working on it. They call them posies, but anyways, no, 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 no. You have to like do something like that, like, right, like SFA, like a Sucker Free Arcade, I think does something similar down in San Francisco. Don's Arcade is like one of the original G status arcades for Jazzy. Like, you know, and the other thing is that you are filling a niche, right? Like, I loved going to the arcade. That was my favorite, like, third place. Like, you have work, school, home, and then somewhere to go socialize and meet people or do things, whenever you just want to get out of the house. And I think that arcade is a great place for that. And it's like, you don't really have that as much. Like, there's so many businesses nowadays, or so many places nowadays, in our culture, are, you have to spend money to be here, and if you stop spending money, you have to get the fuck out, right? And it's like, arcades never felt that way to me. It was like, hey man, it's hot outside, like, I just want to step in for a minute and catch some AC. Or, hey man, it's really cold outside, I just want to step inside and like get some warmth a little bit. Or, hey, like, I just want to watch people play some games. I'll spend 50 cents to be in the rotation, but if I can sit here and watch people be good at something, for no cost, I think that's something that, like, our society doesn't really like have or value very much. So, I like, it's not like to try to give myself a pat on the back or whatever, but like, I am fully appreciative of, one, any place that's like Barcode, they can kind of cater to this like niche and genre. But then any place that's like Sucker Free or like Don's Arcade, where, or like Raycade, where it's just like, I've been fortunate enough to have the space to put these machines in, and I want to open it up to the community, because this is the best way to experience the game, especially when it comes to Third Strike. Like, I've played a fair number of other fighting games. It's like, yeah, the rollback's good. Yeah, it's fine to play it on an LCD panel, but there's like, I guess, like, the joke I tell people all the time is, it's like, yeah, you can play Third Strike on Fightcade, but you can also have sex with a condom. And it's like, you can play Third Strike on a CRT on a fucking candy cab, and you have sex without a condom. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's a little too risque, but that's kind of, I think, the best analogy
Well, I guess there's different ways to
for it,
play
I
Third
suppose.
Strike. I
Yeah, yeah,
guess.
yeah. No, my pants are staying on the whole time. I swear to God. I swear to God. So, anyways,
Yeah.
please come out every other Saturday night. You know how it is.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the players in your scene, or the players that you expect to show up at your first ever Jazzy Ranking event, which is
Sure.
coming
So,
up pretty soon, right? Saturday, January 27th.
we're less than 2 weeks from
Yeah,
now.
Neko Dojo. So, who are some of the players that we should be looking out for? Well, first of all, tell us where it's going to be streamed. Give us some time, and
Sure,
like a
sure. I
time and
mean,
date and stuff like that.
5 p.m. bracket should be starting. I mean, it's
Mhm.
something, it's a humble one man show out here, so things are subject to change or flux or whatever. But
Would you be open to people, like, say they watch this or something and they go, "Hey, Mustardback, saw you on Jazzy Talk. You know, would it be cool if I came and helped out? If I wanted to help out, would you be
I mean,
open to stuff like that?
I would love visitors. You know, like
Yeah,
I would love anybody who like wants to commentate or even practice
yeah.
commentating. Like, you know, we've only had the stream going for
Hmm.
I don't know, a couple of months now, and it's like, you know, I fully encourage anybody, like when people are over here playing, I'm like, hey, you're not in rotation right now, or you're losing. Like, you need to go over there and get on the mic
Mm,
because we need commentators, right? And like,
okay.
like, you know, some people feel comfortable, some people don't, or whatever, and like, you know, I get it. It can be weird to just feel like you're talking to nobody, especially like if you're just talking to a game or talking about a game or whatever, or chat it's not blowing up or whatever. But uh, yeah, I mean, you know, if I'm a player first, right? So like I would like to just be focused, but you know, on the matches that are happening and the players that are going on. But I think we'll probably have, you know, I could probably tap enough people, some of the regulars, and say, you know, can you do backup stream for me, or can you do backup commentary, or can you make sure that I'm not fucking up the bracket or whatever? Um, you know, like Zoffel has had a lot of practice doing this stuff. You know, he did all the mystery game brackets for Northwest Majors and runs Fight Kingdom. So I think like he's a good resource to tap to say like, hey, how do I make this not suck? And then we have, you know, it's a pretty intimate kind of environment that we have. So it's pretty easy for anybody to just like come over, hop on the stream if they want to. As far as players, you know, like PNW has a great scene. I mean, even actually, the greater PNW has an awesome scene, right? Like, you know, up north in Vancouver, Washington, or in Vancouver, BC, you know, we got a little Justin Wong. Maybe you heard of him. I don't think he's going to show up. You know, like the prize pot isn't big enough or whatever. But then, you know, I think like that's only still 2-3 hours away. Down south in Portland, Versaga, Dagger G are down there. Uh, you know, so I think we're when we there's only ever been one Jazzy ranking event before in the entire PNW area that was down in Portland. I want to say that was it was right before the pandemic, so it must have been season 3. Uh, and there were a ton of people that came out. We had like I want to say like 6 people that came out from Eastern Washington. People came down from Canada. You know, it was like a 30-something man bracket. So you know, I'm hoping we can get maybe half that. As far as players, you know, like for Saga, I think is confirmed to come out. He's going to be bringing a carload of people. Caramelty is coming down from Canada. You know, we'll have a good 8 players here. You know, like when we've been doing these events here, basically all of this, like, you know, we have 2 head-to-head third strike setups, and then so that's 4 cabinets. So then there's like 14 other cabinets just running other video games, right? Like Guilty Gear Plus R, CPS2, all the CPS2 stuff, all the Neo Geo stuff, the newer games like the Blaze Blues and the SF6s and whatever. And it's like that's all just like a gateway drug to get people here and be like, oh yeah, you play these games. Well, we have those games. Like if you want to come play them on arcade, but now we have Third Strike, and this is like we got this is what everybody over here is so excited about, you know, and like it's kind of just to entice players to come. So I think we're also gonna, you know, see a pretty good swath of players, of, you know, learning players, people who are just picking up the game, both young and old in age. So I'm actually kind of excited to see that. Like that's probably, you know, I'm getting old, man. You know, it's like I wanna see new players come and get stronger. You know, we need us. We have a 1 or 2 Chun-Li dabblers. You know, like nobody who's just been like, I'm going to purely focus on Chun-Li and do nothing but Chun-Li. Uh, you know, like I think you mentioned like that's what you need for a scene to get really strong, is like somebody who's just going to do nothing but play Chun-Li. It's like if I have to be that bad guy and like from now on be a Chun-Li player, I suppose. Try to whip these kids into shape. I'll do it. But yeah, so you know, I'm thinking we'll probably. I mean, I know we'll easily hit the minimum required match, but I'm hopeful we get over the 16, and I think we can. Like I think like you know, we have a lot of other strong players kind of in the Washington area. Flex Money's out there. Munokin is out there. You know, it's just a matter of getting everybody all together in the same place. You know, like Seattle hasn't been blessed with a very robust public transit system, so you know, and then poor geography. You know, it's like 2 peninsulas kind of touching each other with 3 bridges crossing it. So getting people to cross the water and come up and south all in the same time
Mhm.
is probably our biggest challenge, I think. You know.
Did you mention Any Oregon players? Any players maybe from Portland coming up?
What didn't I say for Zaga
Right?
and Dagger G?
You said for Zaga? Okay, great.
I think I said for
Yeah,
Zaga. He's
yeah,
bringing a whole carload of people. I think he's
yeah.
bringing Chris Sun.
Okay.
I
Well,
think he
there's
might
one
be bringing
player, and
Loki.
yeah. So
Dagger.
anyone who knows me,
Dagger's a
right?
question mark. Dagger's a
Okay,
question mark.
okay,
Yeah, yeah. Dagger's a total question mark. I mean, that he lives
yeah,
his life as an enigma.
yeah,
You know, he might come up. I would love it if he did
yeah.
come up. You know, he was there for the last Fight Kingdom, and that was super fun to have him around. You know, if I know, I mean, I because Garou is going to be I don't know if it's a feature or community game at Fight Kingdom. I know he'll be up at least for that. So maybe if it's like, I mean, I'll tell him like, I'll run a fucking Garo like fucking side bracket if you want it, like if it entices you enough to come up. But
Hmm.
he's actually the person who, you know, he runs a graphic design business on the not on the side, but he runs a graphic design business as his like main occupation. So he was the one who designed our like Neko Dojo main branding, I suppose.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, if anyone content creators out there need someone to do graphic design, hit up Dagger G. And so yeah, like I was mentioning Portland because anytime I ever think about the Pacific Northwest,
About Fat Bear.
yes, exactly. I am the biggest Fat Bear stan. I don't know. I'm just
That's funny. What? Okay, so he was making another game too, right? Like, didn't he? Wasn't he like developing some game or something? Like he was developing a
yeah.
fighting game or like a Twitch reaction game or something. I can't remember.
I don't really know much about Fat Bear outside of Third Strike, but
Yeah, yeah.
he was one of the few players that, because back in the day it was not as easy to like form relationships or meet people who are from out of your state.
Uh-huh.
And so whenever we would go to Evo, then that was the time for me and Fat Bear to reconnect. But I always
How
talk
did you?
about Fat Bear, and
Yeah. How did you guys meet? Like, why are you a
we
Fat Bear
just
stan?
well, because Fat Bear came up to me one time at Evo, yeah, and just said, "Hey, I saw you in the Family Fun, ran bats, and
Oh, way back in the day.
I
Yeah,
use
yeah. I know who
Necro."
you are. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it was
Oh, you
like,
guys are
and,
Necro
and, and
buddies.
nobody
Yeah,
and nobody, obviously back in those days, nobody really used Necro, at least
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
America.
Right.
But I mean, even though you just got done telling your Yuki Necro story from
Sure.
Einstein or
Sure.
from
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Land Center, right?
Czech Republic. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, I just always talk about Fat Bear and just hold out hope that Fat Bear will one day grace us with
Just show.
his
I mean,
return.
he did. He did. He showed up to the PNW or the ground control, you know, the Jazzy event that was down there, like the Jazzy Ranking Event in season 3.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, you know, he doesn't, you know, I'm sorry to tell you, I don't think he still plays Necro. He was playing Akuma at the time.
Hmm.
Uh, but I remember he was my round one, and I put him in losers, and I was like, all right, you know, fucking whatever. I have no idea who this guy is. Like, you know, it's just another Akuma, throw him on the pile, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he winds up like coming back in you know, I lose to Versaga in like winners finals, and I'm like, okay, well, I gotta like fight this Akuma that I put down in losers round one to get back up to Versaga. And I was like, I totally underestimated him. I was like, nah, he's whatever. Like apparently he was super strong, and he had just like used all of losers to like warm up and like get like, we were playing on the PS4 edition at that point. So like, you know, kind of make his adjustments, I suppose. And I was like, damn, like, yeah, Fabra's good. Like I lost his like rush down Akuma. And he actually, I mean, I don't know how Rasaga felt, but like I think he gave him a pretty good like little run for his money. I remember some like red parries like happening, which is, you know, annoying to try to do on a PS4. But
Hmm.
no, I would like him to come. If I remember correctly, it was you who had to. Did you just ping him and you were like, "Hey, dog, like you got to go to this fucking ranking event,"
I think
like back
so.
then, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, you know,
I
just
think
do the same
so.
thing again. Just be
Yeah.
like, Dagger G needs a ride. Go pick up Dagger G and take him up to Washington or whatever. You know.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Fat Bear. Uh, always looking forward to seeing him play, regardless of which character he uses. So yeah, and how do you feel about your first Jazzy ranking event? I know you already talked about some of the players that were coming through, but just kind of from like a TO standpoint.
Okay,
I
so
know
so I'm
probably you've run brackets for forever, but
no, no,
just
no, no. Like
or
that's the thing is like I'm not a TO,
uh
right?
huh.
Like we've done a couple of brackets, like mostly in practice, where it was like, there weren't any Street Fighter Six team tournaments kind of happening in the Seattle area.
Uh-huh.
So I was running like some 2v2s because I thought, like, I like team tournaments. I think they're a fun format. So I was kind of doing that as practice. We were doing like Donison ranking events, but those are pretty easy to do with like a clipboard and a beer in your hand. Like you don't actually have to like do a whole lot, keep people in rotation plus or minus the number or whatever. Um, so I was trying to think if we like, as a formal grown up big boy bracket, like I think this will kind of be the first time. Uh, so I'm worried, or not worried. I'm anxious about the like technical logistics. I want those to kind of all go smoothly. I think that will. I don't think that we're gonna have so many people that it's gonna be unmanageable, or anything like that. Like I think we'll have good people. If I need somebody to kind of step in, I think we'll have plenty of resources for that. I'm just hoping the network stays solid the entire time. We don't have any equipment failures. Buttons go out, harnesses fall apart, whatever. All that stuff can be managed. Knock on wood, all the monitors stay healthy the entire time throughout the course of the tournament. But from a player standpoint, from a community standpoint, I'm really just hoping this uh, kind of starts, uh I guess offers an opportunity for people to like want to chase third strike in our area. It's like, yeah, we have a great Street Fighter 16. We have a great bracket that happens every week for Street Fighter 6. um I would, maybe if they want to come down and like switch games, try a different game for a little while, or there's probably people around here who used to play Street Fighter 3. It might give them a reason to come back. So it's kind of all those like people influences that I'm really looking forward to, is just like seeing what influence it has on the community as a whole. New players coming in, getting better, old players coming back in, like nothing, knocking off the rust, and then you know maybe old rivalries getting reinvigorated, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I heard Versaga was retired. That's what he told me. Versaga told me he was retired. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be funny that he's going to
Yeah.
come out.
Well, third strike tends to be like pro wrestling.
Yeah,
Retirement doesn't really mean a whole lot
yeah,
in
yeah,
pro
yeah,
wrestling, and
yeah.
historically, it hasn't meant a lot in third strike either.
I just want to come back for that dramatic reintroduction or whatever, like
Uh-huh.
a new costume. I'll put on a different face paint this time.
Yeah. Speaking of Versaga, of course, we were talking about Versaga season 4 Jazzy finalists after winning at uh show a great performance at Jazzy Logan last season.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Enemy territory and all
Just
that sort of stuff.
yeah, and no one knew him. He didn't know anybody. I mean, he just kind of he went in there, did his business, and came out with a win. And so, and then he was just here in New York, was able to come to Brooklyn games, get in some games, won a set against Frankie. And so, yeah, shout outs to Versaga. Yeah, I don't know. Retirement is it's not a, who knows.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, maybe he's just carpooling people. Maybe he's just bringing them
Yeah.
up. Maybe I'll get Versaga to run the whole tournament for me, and like I won't
Oh,
have to do
okay.
anything or whatever.
That's
I
how it
will probably see him
works.
on stream a little bit. We'll
Or
probably
maybe
see him on stream.
commentary. I mean, no, not to put any
Yeah, yeah,
pressure
yeah.
on anyone, but
No,
it
no,
would
no,
be
no,
great to
no.
have the insights on a player like Versaga. So,
I love putting people, like pressuring people to do things that they're uncomfortable with. So if it's, hey man, go put on the headset and go do commentary, I think he'll be a sport. Uh,
yeah,
Done it to enough of the other guys that come through. No.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Let's talk a little bit more about the Jazzy. Oh, actually, no. Let's talk first about Fight Kingdom. You already talked about a little bit of it. I think on Twitter a few hours ago, it was announced that you'd be the 3S lead at Fight Kingdom.
Yeah.
And
So I
so,
guess
so yeah, let's talk a little bit about Fight Kingdom. I think we're gonna have Zaffo here, so definitely
just
we're
gets to
gonna
talk
get
about
more
it. Yeah, yeah.
info on Fight Kingdom. But just tell us how like last year went, because that was it the first Fight Kingdom or the second one?
That was the second one. That
It
was the
was the
second one.
second one.
Yeah,
So have you
yeah,
been
yeah.
to all of them?
There's only been two.
Yeah. So have you been to both of
I've been to
them?
both. I've been to both.
Yeah. And so
Uh,
yeah, just tell me a little bit about kind of your experience at Fight Kingdom. Come from just from the perspective of a streamer, the event looked like a lot of fun.
No,
And
it was a
so,
ton of
yeah,
fun. It's like it's supposed to be the spiritual successor to the like Northwest Majors, which is I had never been to. That was kind of before my time here in Seattle. But you know, it's like the spiritual successor to Northwest Majors with more of a retro slant, right? So both years, Third Strike has been the banner game, the last game that gets run. Mostly, I think because it's like Zaffa's favorite game. Um, but that's fair. You know, you won't get any complaints out of me, I suppose. Hosted up in Everett, and it's you know, it kind of like I think captures one of like some of like the old large scale events where it's like you know you have vendors and artists come in and you know really well done professional production for the stream and for you know it's super well organized. Every game has its own lead, every game has its own bracket manager. You know, we had a nice little candy collection out there, had the arcade collection out there. So you know, I mean, it was this last year was awesome. Like you know, we had the Nom come out, we had Dagger G did come out. Justin Wong came down, you know, he bodied everybody in all the games that he played. Didn't play Marvel though, which was I think weird. I don't know why.
Marvel two
I
or
think
three.
Marvel 2.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get to ask him like why he didn't play. I was trying to get him, you know, the night before the top 8 day, or second day, I was like, you know, there was everybody's having a good time, partying, getting drunk, whatever. And we're doing it East versus West for Third Strike. And Justin doesn't want to play. He's like, nah, man. Like I'm, you know, the like consummate professional. He's just like, I'm just gonna get my Uber Eats and I'm just gonna go to bed. You know, like I'm not staying up with you degenerates to play East versus West Third Strike. Like, all right. Uh, but I mean, the Marvel guys, I think like got super fucking hyped, super fucking excited. You know, I don't know how many stages they really have to kind of put on a show. So I think it's pretty important for those guys. But no, it's just awesome. You know, like having a you know whole ballroom feel, uh, kind of setting like that. Yeah, and we had I think for just about every game was like strong, skilled players to watch. So it was entertaining. Yeah, you'll hear more
Awesome.
from Zoffo about it. I guess yeah, and I will, you
Yeah.
know, have to run the third. You know, hopefully all of this experience from running Jazzy events, like because we're gonna plan to do one every month. You know, do the like try to hit as many as we can, and hopefully that experience will pay off for Fight Kingdom. I mean, we did have a like a halfway. There was like 8 games in one day. There was an event a couple months back called Night of the 09er where like Street Fighter 4 was the banner game, the lead title or whatever. And we ran a third side bracket there. So you know, got to run that, I suppose. So it's you know, it'll just be kind of a extension from there, I suppose.
Hmm. Yeah. And Fight Kingdom, love the branding. The ski masks are sick.
The ski masks are sick. The ski masks, the fucking air fresheners. I got an air freshener over here. Like I
Yeah.
buy a shirt every year. No, the shirts are cool. You know, because it's like sometimes you go to a place and it's like $40 for a t-shirt. It's got the logo. Get fucked. Get out of here. You know, like give us your money. But like I said, you know, like Zaffo is a professional AV guy, graphic design. I think is in his professional background, so it shows with a lot of the branding and a lot of the production quality that goes in a Fight Kingdom.
Yeah. And of course, there will be a Jazzy ranking, or the third strike at Fight Kingdom this year will be a Jazzy ranking event. One of the later opportunities for people to get points to try and squeeze their way into the top
I'm
five on the
hoping
leaderboard.
I'm hoping that that'll do something, right? Because like that's early May, and if I remember,
Yeah.
we have like all of May can technically be a Jazzy ranking event. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, that'll be our last number 5 will be in May.
Uh-huh.
So if somebody wants to come out to Washington who's like, you know, just on the edge of points and they want to solidify their placement, you know,
Mhm.
come. The PNW is so soft in third strike, you know, like you can come beat us at Fight Kingdom, come beat us at Neko Dojo. You know,
Yeah.
come stay out, come stay out, and win 2 events. You know, it'd be nice to have people come travel because you know, I think you know we don't know what the schedule looks like that far out in advance. Like nobody's
Yeah.
schedule an event, so I assume there's probably still going to be a lot of tournaments in May, probably
Mhm.
like nationwide, right?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how the buzz for Third Strike pans out here. But I think Jazzy season 5 is off to a pretty good start.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of now that you are on episode 4, you kind of have the luxury, mustard back to talk to me a little bit about we've seen so far in season 5. And so, obviously we started with the first
I mean, the
ever Jazzy
online
online
thing.
event at Stupid
Yeah,
Fighter,
yeah, yeah. Right,
followed
right.
up by another 50 plus bracket at Southeast Throwdown the very next Wednesday. And then we have Riz coming up on the right at the tail end of the month, I believe, the
Yeah.
31st, Tuesday, Super Low Boys, the Illuminati. And so I would be surprised if, that event didn't, match or maybe exceed the entrance. And it's going to be a West Coast event too, sort of, like it's going to be
Sure, yeah, yeah.
where we're trying to,
Scheduled a little bit
yeah,
later,
yeah,
yeah,
10
yeah,
p.m.
yeah, yeah.
Eastern,
Super Strike is always I'm in the office at 4 p.m., like I'm still
yeah,
like commuting home, like
yeah,
making a Super Strike is like so hard. So it'd be cool to see an
yeah,
online event on West Coast timing a little bit.
mm,
But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little hesitant when I saw the announcement first, and I was just like,
mm,
online, they're like I'm old, I get it.
yeah,
But I was
yeah,
like,
it's tough.
online, these motherfuckers gonna be playing the third strike with their Donkey Kong bongos and shit. Like, I don't want to see keyboard players or whatever. But it was actually like once I started watching the event, I was like, this is fucking tight. Like, this is like a finale pool. Like the quality of players that are in here, I was like, the top 8, top 16. I was like, this is fucking nuts. So I had a really, really good time watching that. Like that was that Friday. I was super annoying because I worked downtown and like the Street Fighter 6 bracket happens there. So like when I went, everybody's there to play Street Fighter 6. And I'm just like over huddled in the corner, like watching the Third Strike stream on my phone. Like, leave me alone. Like, I'm watching this set. Like, I don't care about your stupid Street Fighter 6 game or whatever. But no, I think it has been it was a good idea in maybe not retrospect. I've been convinced, I guess.
Well, season
You could
5 isn't
say.
over yet, so maybe you wanna
Yeah, yeah,
you wanna
yeah, yeah, yeah.
suspend your
Hold
judgment.
judgment. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but I mean, I was entertained, right? Like,
Yeah.
at the if nothing else, like just seeing like Boa get second place and have all those
Mhm.
like sick upsets, like that was fucking tight. Uh, I mean, yeah, just the quality of play you see. Like, I didn't hear about anybody complaining about connections or disconnects or any of that sort of stuff. Like I don't know if there's enough pull with any of the or even technically what you can do with 5K developers to say like, hey, you guys who are maintaining servers or managing the servers know that this is happening. Can you give us some like QoL or QCI like increases, or can you like look out for us in some way, or like know that we're going to be kind of needing it to be stable in some form or fashion? I don't know. They might already know. Um, but yeah,
Mhm.
no, I'm excited. I'm excited. I think
Yeah.
it'll be cool. Yeah, it felt bad that it was like, oh man, 2 spots going to freaking no pant wearing Dorito bag chuffing like basement dwellers or whatever. But like I think
Some
it'll
people have their
honestly
setups in the garage. Okay, just
look, look, look,
wanna.
look. No, it's terrible. It's terrible.
All
It's terrible.
right.
It's I get it. I'm super blessed, totally fortunate, all of that sort of stuff. I've been spoiled. I've been spoiled. What for, the number of places that are available to qualify, like I think it'll make the finale that much tighter to
Yeah.
like kind of remove two and take them away and like make more people come out to the finale. Because I mean, I think the finale is I mean, it's been the best third strike event I've been to in my life, right?
Wow.
Like
Wow. I really appreciate that.
I had so much fun there. Maybe if I got into 1, 2, or 3, when it was at like a gamer lounge or fucking whatever, it might not have been as cool. But Akihabara was just a dope venue, and I mean,
Mhm.
it's like I've been on 5K for so long, and like I knew all of these people, right? Like
Yeah.
I knew these people for decades at this point, and it's just
Yeah.
like then to finally like put a name to a face and like meet somebody or share a beer with somebody is like no, that was cool. I was like that was super special. And then just
Yeah.
like, you know, you can like being in an environment where like you can get really, really excited about this thing that like most people don't give a crap about. I think was really fun. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for the next one for sure. No, man, it's but I have been spoiled. You're right. Like I don't even like going to like locals to play. Like I don't like carrying a stick with me anymore, right?
Mhm.
Like a fucking stick in my back like a dork, and like it feels weird to like get on Fightcade and like hold a stick in
Yeah.
my lap. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know about this anymore.
But that's kind of
Uh,
how that's kind of the how Jazzy or why Jazzy set up the way it is. It's like you
yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah,
please
yeah.
everyone, and so why not try and
Draw a line in the
give.
sand.
Well, no, why not try to give people as many ways to play Third Strike? Like
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
I
yeah.
get the argument for uniformity and I don't
purism.
know. I just like, as someone who's been like, you've been in the scene almost as long as I have. Like, don't you ever just get tired of like these online versus offline debates? I don't know. Personally, I kind of, I mean, I
It's
get it, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
like,
I
uh,
never thought it was a debate.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
never bought into the like, oh, a one result here doesn't matter
yeah.
there. It's like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it,
But you were saying
it
you were skeptical, right? Like when we announced online, and so like I always feel like there's that like skepticism,
it wasn't
or
necessarily about like
surrounding.
it was only skeptical as to what it meant for organizing a grassroots
Yeah.
kind of scene, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like if you take away those qualifying positions,
Mhm.
then it's like, well, that's just like one other scene in the
Yeah.
country that doesn't have an auto qualifier, or
Yeah.
like it might be a barrier to like
Oh, I see.
Maybe Michigan doesn't want to start doing ranking events now
Hmm.
because like they're not going to have enough ranking events, and
Hmm.
they can just play online. But also, it might just be kind of a dearth in that area, so
Hmm.
everybody can play online. uh I think it's going to be more good than bad ultimately.
Hmm.
At least from just like a quality of play standpoint, like seeing sick third strike play.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's something that's like there's sick third strike play happening 24/7. Like you can always find something tight. Well, 20 most of the day you can
Yeah.
find on Fightcade you can find some like some sick sets, but it's like it has to there has to be something on the line for people to like get hype. Like that's what
Hmm.
organized fighting game play is kind of like why it's so cool, right? It's like people get excited and it's tied to watch when they're under the gun, when they have to make it,
Hmm.
or any of the implications that like tournament play kind of comes with. But
Yeah. Oh man.
no,
Appreciate yeah, man. Appreciate the time. You're welcome back. Definitely anticipate, or if you're interested, coming back later on in the season. I know you're planning to do more of these Jazzy Ranking events at Neko. So
yeah, we'll see how it
just
goes. Like after the third one, I'd be like, "Just let me out of here! Fucking, you gotta hire somebody else, man. Like
yeah.
I can't do it anymore, dude. I can't be a technician, commentator, TO, player, and all that sort of stuff." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but definitely looking forward to seeing how your ranking event goes. And so again, Mustard back hosting first ever Jazzy Ranking Event at the Neko Dojo, his new community space out in Kent, Washington. And just before we get out of here, we'll again talk a little bit about the season so far. We're about a couple weeks in, and we already have players who have earned points to get on the leaderboard. We have a really busy January, and
No, that's
so
awesome. That's so
yeah, yeah, and so Friday we have Brooklyn Arcade's first Jazzy Monthly. They will also be hosting an auto qualifier out later on in May. Their monthlies are on the third Fridays of every month, but the auto qualifier is going to be on a Saturday. But before we get that, Jazzy Barcode
yeah.
attendance has picked up in the last few days. Fully anticipate that event making MSF tier. And so shout outs to Arliath for running Jazzy Barcode. He joined the Jazzy board this season, and really looking forward to, sort of his contributions, because
Does that say
if
52
there's
players?
42 players for now.
42
Yeah,
players.
yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Last
Even
season,
still, yeah.
yeah, like we have a 64 player cap because that's what the attendance limit is. But I fully anticipate us getting to MSF at least. North Carolina keeps the tournaments going with Tournament of Thrones 41. That's gonna happen on the same day as the Jazzy Barcode event, and then the very next day, kind of going through that Jazzy Barcode hangover, you could check out the first Jazzy ranking event at Logan. They'll also be a host of a Jazzy auto qualifier in April. And their verse ranking event is going to be on Sunday, January 21st. The Chicago Handshake Series, run by 4C Joe and Zagran and Arshad. Shout outs to Mr. Part 2, who also joined the board this season. And so shout outs to Part 2 for wanting to keep Third Strike alive. Then we got the big one, Frosty Faustings, January
Mhm.
26th, 150 players. Clearly, I'm going to be a MSF tournament. It's going to be really sick. Hearing a lot of great players are going to be there. Obviously, I can't reveal who unless the player list is already public, but probably going to be a lot of heavy hitters there. A lot of people have said that they're going to make it out, so that'll be great. Let me scroll down a little bit. I got to go to view all events. That's how many events we have in
Yeah, right.
January.
Oh, that's so tight. No, we were
Yeah,
smart. We scheduled it the same weekend as
yeah.
Frosty Fausting.
And so, especially with how the weather is, it can, I'm sure it's going to be tough to get anywhere. And so there may be some stragglers so maybe you did the right thing, And so, yeah, on the same day that Frosty Fausting starts, we're also going to have the first Jazzy Ranking event in the Bakersfield, California area. Shout out to Anselmo, who runs a community space called The Office. This is where Resolve is from, the Central California area.
No.
And so definitely check that scene out, especially for fans of Resolve. Then we got your event the next day, Neko Dojo, Jazzy Ranking Event. And on the same day, we got the Cactus League. Their first Jazzy Ranking Event is going down at the Gaming Zone, and they will also be hosting a Jazzy Auto Qualifier in February. And then finally, really going to be excited about this tournament. This is another tournament out in Charlotte. It's going to be at a fairly new venue called Super Abari, and they're going to have I think they have either a Versus City. I think they have a Versus City there. And already 17 players have shown up, and I've shout out to Flannel Jack, who was on the show a week ago, and I noticed Flannel Jack's been posting little videos, little teasers of the type of competition that's been showing up lately at Super Abari.
Oh, you saw that hip hop
And
song, right? Like they put up that song.
and so, yeah, I think that's going to be a really sick tournament. I think a lot of high level Third Strike players from the NC are going to be showing up to that. So definitely check that out. Yeah, that's a ton of Third Strike for January alone. And, then, to cap it off, we'll have Riz running his first ever Jazzy Ranking event at the Galuminati on January 31st for the online events. And so a busy January for Jazzy. And again, looking forward to all these events, especially your event, Mustardback, your first ever ranking event. And so, yeah, thanks for your time, man. And good luck with everything moving forward.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yep.
All right. And so until next time, I'll catch you later on Jazzy Talk. Appreciate it,
Yep.
everyone.
Yep.